And we're here again, the Rugby Rundown, of course, with myself, Will Hooley, and Corbs, Alex Cavalieri. But we're not next to each other. Man, I'm missing you. I'm so far away. How are you doing, pal? We got a hell of a show to get through, but I just want to check in on how you're doing.
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Obviously, everyone listening or watching, hello to everyone. Good to see you, Will. Will know that San Diego Legion fell in the first playoff hurdle to Seattle. So obviously a little bit heartbroken. My season's over. We just weren't quite able to get the job done. I think credit to Seattle. They're really clinical and played well. And we had opportunities and we didn't take them. And that's probably it in a nutshell. But dust myself off, get to enjoy some rugby, get to reflect on the season and where we could be better. But at the same time, a little gutted that we're not still in the hunt for this shield.
Oh, man. Well, look, I'm gutted that I wasn't there. I've had a whole weekend away, been here in the United Kingdom, been watching, of course, everything that's happening. So good. Obviously, our show last week, previewing those conference semifinals, my word, where there's some big games, big results in there, calls we'll get stuck into a minute. But I've been here at my brother's wedding, so I've been on family duties here, buddy. I will get back, of course, for the conference finals coming up. But great to be here again on MLR YouTube, Corbs, and the Rugby Network. That's not bad. We're still knocking along out there.
No.
Happy how it's going?
Pretty cool that show onwards we march. I think it's cool to get on the MLR's YouTube. Probably going to take a little while for people to realize we're on there. So if you are listening to this and you want to give it a look on there, please check it out. We'd love to see the view or the comments or any of the interaction from you. But honestly, just like life, just like getting knocked out of the playoffs, just like this show, onwards we march, mate. Here we go. Let's get through it.
That's the spirit. That's what we're about. No, we've got a fantastic show coming up for you because Corbs has massively helped me out. Time difference isn't that helpful, but you've knocked out some brilliant interviews. We've got all four of the head coaches of those Major League Rugby teams that are in to the conference finals. That's, of course, from Seattle Seawolves, Dallas Jackals, Free Jacks, and then the Chicago Hounds. Looking forward to hearing you, Corbs, and all of that. But let's get stuck into it, buddy. There is some rundown news to get through. So should we get stuck into some of that?
Let's rip in, mate.
Right, my man. Well, actually, there's something else I missed through being away currently at the moment, which I know that you would have had a little peek round the corner at Snapdragon Stadium. How good was it to have the All Blacks versus Fiji? Some clips coming up now. Nearly 34,000 people in that stadium, basically packed full capacity, seeing the haka, seeing the All Blacks, and of course Fiji. The All Blacks coming away with a pretty easy victory. What do you think of the day, though, mate? The whole week, I know there were some clinics involved, but great to have that on American soil.
I thought it was incredible, mate. Obviously, the US game with Scotland Audi Field was great to see, but I thought this was probably another level up. Like the crowd, the stadium, the venue, the time of evening where the sun is like just setting, and it really gave me a little bit of goosebumps at times of how cool a venue this could be in the future. It's obviously a World Cup venue. Yeah. It's that right size where it's intimate, but it's also packed. And I just thought it was incredible to see the fan turnout, the embrace, the crowd getting into it. I'd only seen Snapdragon full for, say, Wave playoff games and things like that. So to see it for rugby, it was pretty breathtaking. I love to take it in. The game entertained. And I can imagine there's loads of people who traveled for that game, but there's loads of people from America who got to see that product, got to see that atmosphere the first time, that it seems pretty contagious and infectious, that I would like to sort of gather that they would come again.
Oh, man, it looks so good, and credit to everyone involved in making that happen. I know, of course, San Diego Legion were very much part of that. So no bias shown here. I just think what an event for San Diego to put on. And like you say, for the World Cup coming up. Now, there's something in the short term coming up, Corbs, and that is the Olympic Games. We've talked about it enough. We've got guests on talking about it. I remember even we were speaking to Alona Mar. It feels like months ago. It was months ago, and how the preparation was going, but it finally happens in Paris. It all kicks off. It almost kicks off before the opening ceremony, I believe. So make sure to check it out. Can we get medals, Corbs? Can we get it in the women's? Can we get it in the men's?
It's showtime. It's now or never. I think the women's probably have the easier path to a medal just on depth and what they've shown, as well as their competitiveness competitiveness this year with some of those top teams, but they're going to come out and pitch perfect games. The Olympic format is ruthless. It's very different to the 7 series format where you can say maybe lose a pool game and come through. It's very ruthless in that sort of factor that you just got to turn up and perform. But at the same time, I think the men also are dark horses. Mike Friday has a lot of experience regrouped in that team, a lot of guys going for one last dance. And the thing in sevens is if you just hit that run at the right time, you never know what can happen. I would say the men's pool is absolutely stacked. The depth is ridiculous. It's the type of tournament that maybe 6 teams generally could be considered the team that someone could pick as your picked winner. So very, very hard for them, but fantastic. The one thing I will say from the outside in about the Olympic sevens is just in general, the women are smashing the men in the commercial game.
Oh, my
not
word.
just
the social media
USA Rugby, but even like if you look at the other teams, these women are absolutely smashing it. The US Women's Sevens team with Alona Mar and Co. about 20 different adverts going with all different brands. I've seen the Aussie women's doing the same. Like, this is amazing for rugby to get to this sort of commercialization. It's such a big tournament as the Olympic and getting these blue chip big sponsors behind rugby. That to me is almost as impressive as what would be for them on the field getting the achievement that we know that they're capable of.
Oh, man, you're spot on. Lona Mar, friend of the show, of course, as well. We are a massive supporter of her. All the best to the USA men's and women's at the Olympics. Last bit of things on the news, even though it's still very much the playoffs here in Major League Rugby, and we're talking about the Olympic Games, the off-season has meant that we have just seen the upcoming Premiership fixtures, Corbs. Yes, they've come out. That, of course, will be on the Rugby Network, and that first game, buddy, is going to be a repeat of the final. Bath at home to the Northampton Saints on the 20th of September. That's a Friday night game in the UK. Of course, will be in the afternoon for the American fan base. That's going to be juicy, buddy, as that comes up. Have you had a little look at those fixtures? I mean, hey, I can't believe how quickly it comes around.
Yeah, I scanned it. That's more what my takeaway was. Is, man, this competition don't rest for long. These boys are already back in pre-season. I know all the clubs are pretty much back in. We have players at San Diego, or one player who's moving to Saints. He has a week off, and then he's straight back in to preseason. It just shows that league is it's what we know, mate. It's a marathon, not a sprint in that comp. And you got to get it right from September, and then you got to be the team and in form in the end of May, sort of early June. So it's a pretty special comp, and we're lucky to cover and have it here on the Rugby Network.
Absolutely, indeed. Make sure you go and have a look at those fixtures. Right, Corbs, well, we're going to jump out of this news because this episode, of course, is a special. It's a conference final special for the West and the East. So we're getting a little word on it before we welcome in our guests, as it's all to come for these MLR teams heading in to the conference finals weekend.
Okay, well, let's talk playoffs, mate. And I know you had a busy weekend, obviously, family duties with your brother's wedding. But what did you see of the playoffs? What were your takeaways? Some cracking results and fixtures across the weekend.
Man, it really was. Yes, I got up to date with everything relatively recently. And each one of those games, Corbs, did not disappoint. When I looked at that first game, the New England Free Jacks, obviously reigning champions, and you can't put it past them to maybe go back to back. But I've got to say, DC, credit to DC. They really hung in there. We picked out the 210s. We had them on the show, Jason Potros and Jason Robertson, in their own facets, I thought were excellent at times. New England getting it done. They have had to hold on. Credit to DC. But then it was the big one. I mean, Houston against Dallas, man. I mean, I picked Houston, and I know you picked Dallas. I'll get your little thought of that in a minute. Just a game plan that Nate Osborne and Augustin Cavalieri, I look forward to hearing from Augustin when you speak to him a bit later. They nailed it. They got the job done. Houston, I actually saw a fact. You don't want to be top of this league, Corbs, because it looks as though in the last 4 seasons, whoever's come top has not gone on to win it. And the Sabercats, that has happened for them straight away. They are out. And then the last 2 games on Sunday, I really was impressed with Chicago. We knew this, man. I called it. I said they were going to do a job. And boy, it wasn't just a job, Corbs, they did. It was just kind of an obliteration come the end. Really strong at set piece, really clinical in attack. I felt for Nola because the atmosphere looked brilliant at the gold mine, but Chicago march on. And then talking about marching, I thought Legion might go and do this. I really did. Tough game in Seattle. Credit to the Seattle defense. Credit to Seattle in that first half in particular. And I know you will talk about it a little bit later on. I can't wait for you to speak to Clarke, even though it was about 24 hours after you just had the game. I look forward to that. But what did you think about it? I just thought across the board, it just showed this competition is so tough when you've got two away teams that went through and two home teams that also went through. It just shows you how competitive it was. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a cracking weekend. First off, Free Jacks, Old Glory gave him a real scare. I think Old Glory started really well, but then the ability for Free Jacks to respond and go bang, bang, bang and fight their way back into that game, as Old Glory had scored, I think, 3 early tries or whatever in that game, I thought was really impressive. There's a lot of pressure when you're the top team, as we just talked about with Houston, whatever. And sometimes you just got to get through and get the W and get onto the next game. And I felt that's kind of what the Free Jacks did. If we talk about Dallas, what a performance. I knew they had that in them. They had the styles clash. If they could handle certain areas of Houston's game, it was game on because of the way that I think their team's built. It really could play to some of the strengths of what Houston were going to throw at them. And that's exactly what they did. Dangerous off kick counter, dangerous on the front foot, offload game, just ruthless in the 22. If they stop the drive, they score off their pick and go. I just thought they put a complete performance together, and you could see that they were literally out on their feet, giving everything they had from emotional energy to everything. It was incredible victory. Gutted for Houston after such a strong season to fall off that way. I know they had tough preparation with the hurricane affecting training and other things, but they never really quite got rolling or maybe put their best foot forward in that performance. So gutted for them, very hard. If you look at Chicago, Nola, this is probably the most convincing win of the weekend, and the one team where I think they clearly went out and just outboxed their opponent. It was closer in the first half, but just the control, the set piece, the accuracy at times, really complete performance to go away from home against a team like Nola, which is very, very good. I thought Chicago, especially defensively, showed some outstanding characteristics. And if you're the Free Jacks, you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's to make sure you handle that. And then lastly, our game, obviously gutted from a personal standpoint. I thought we were in it at times. We had opportunities. We just needed to be more clinical with some of our red zone shots, especially earlier, chasing the game late, ran it really close. But I thought Seattle, especially in the first half, got the better of the exchanges and some of the kick territory battle that allowed them to put us under pressure. Mac Mason is an absolute G at times, controlling the game. And then I think they just defended us really well in that last third. I thought the ability to hold us out at times, the way they filled the field, to narrow field, and they know how to play that game well. I think they held it really well. And then, a couple calls that maybe went against us that just maybe put the game a little bit too far out of reach. A penalty try, which was tough to take, but that's the way the referee saw it. And that's kind of just that inability for us to catch them and then continue momentum. Every time we got a score, they seemed to strike right back, and it kind of kept us at bay. And very professional performance from them. And, Seattle looking pretty good.
Oh, man. I could feel it in you, even from this side of the pond, that it was a tough one to take, Corbs. But credit for you speaking up like that. Well, look, enough of us getting through our sort of rapid review. What was so good about this week's episode is Corbs has massively helped me out. He's gone and spoken to each and every one of those coaches who have made it through to their conference final. Sitting down, of course, in the West is none other than Alan Clarke, who you came up against, the Seattle Seawolves head coach, and for the Dallas Jackals, Augustin Cavalieri, their head coach. And then on the east side, you've got Scott Mathie of the New England Free Jacks. And then from the Chicago Hounds, a buddy of yours, of course, from the England days, Rob Webber. So good having all four of them jump on. Over to you, Corbs, to talk to all four of them as the West Conference and the East Conference come to their finals.
All right, we are joined by the two head coaches that are left in the East. This is the Eastern Conference Final this weekend. We've got the New England Free Jacks and Scott Mathie, and we've got the Chicago Hounds, their first ever playoff win with Rob Webber. Both you guys, welcome to the rundown. Cracking to have you both on.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Corbs.
Well, Rob, I'll start with you first. Congratulations on the weekend. Playoff game away at Nola, beating a higher seeded team away from home. What were tough, hot conditions. Just your thoughts on the win and how it all went down.
Yeah, obviously, absolutely delighted, mate. It was a tough game for us, given everything you've just said, the heat and the humidity, and there's a little bit of doubt of whether it was going to be thunder and lightning and delays and stuff like that at one point as well from us. Our team run the day before was cancelled due to that. So, there was a few issues, mate, the travel, things like that. So we were absolutely delighted, as you can imagine, especially because I think the first half we were probably not at our best, and we had to work pretty hard in that second half to pull away. So that was pleasing.
And what were the areas of your game or where you thought that, you were happy with the team and where it probably mattered in beating NOLA?
I was pleased with our scrum. I think NOLA have got a very powerful scrum, or it's been powerful all year, and thought we did a good job in that area. And yeah, look, we scored a few points, didn't we? So just that attacking ability to get over the line was good for us,
And then, Scott, for you boys, obviously, congratulations as well on the win. A tough one against Old Glory. Gave you guys a bit of a scare at time, but another strong win at Quincy for you boys. How you feeling after the weekend?
Yeah, relieved. It's nice to get a win. I mean, all those games against DC have been nail biters, eh? So I don't think I was expecting anything less than that, eh? But yeah, good, man. Good result for us. It's nice to quell that demon from earlier in the season to where they beat us at home. Yeah, so pretty happy. Yeah.
And what were the areas of your boys' game that you were most happy with, or you thought that helped decide the victory for your team?
I think we handled DC's set piece pretty well. Like that's a real big threat of theirs, and I think just looking after that, I think is a big thing when it comes to DC. And then we were able to get a bit of speed on the ball at times when it mattered, and I think that allowed us to make some inroads into DC's defence, and ultimately, I think just before the half was really big moments for us, and I think being able to wrestle back that 8-point deficit was a real challenging part of the game, but we nailed that, and I thought it gave us a lot of confidence going into that second half.
Rob, you and your team obviously came into the season with, there was a lot of expectation, an amazing roster, coaches coming in, maybe didn't quite get off to the start you would have wanted. There was a bit of a bump, and obviously Sam Harris was released early from his contract. But since that point, you guys seem to have turned a corner and really sort of hitting your stride in this run into the playoffs. Like, just a little bit on the season at whole and where you feel you and the team are right now coming into this big game.
Yeah, I guess this time is everything in life, isn't it? So hopefully we've timed it well. It's not been without its bumps and problems, I suppose, mate, in the sense of what's happened. And I don't think we shied away from that. I think that ultimately there was a decision made that the powers that be potentially weren't happy with how it was going, and they made a decision to change things. And what's just been pleasing from my point of view is just the way everyone reacted to that, because it probably could have gone one or two ways. And I think everyone's bought in, all the lads have bought in, and the staff have bought in really, really well to that change, and just sort of got aligned behind it and just giving it their all, because I think what it highlighted was that it was actually a really sad moment as well for the club, when that change was made. So I think everyone just got behind the organisation and started to give it their all, which was really, really pleasing. In terms of the earlier season, we were a bit inconsistent, weren't we? I think we'd win 2 or 3, lose 2 or 3, win 2 or 3, and that's sort of the way it went for us. So just trying to get that consistency, and I think it's any team that can do that in this competition goes well, because I think everyone seems to beat everyone. So I think if you can be a bit more consistent, you tend to go pretty well, right?
Yeah, no, definitely, and I'm sure it's going to be a competitive one on the weekend. Scott, different sort of season for you boys. Obviously, coming off as defending champions, big target on your guys' back as you come in with that sort of moniker. Some turnover in the squad, so some new faces. But again, you're at another Eastern Conference final, looking down the barrel of potentially going on to a final. How have you found this season, and how do you feel you and the team are at the moment coming into this big game?
Yeah, I think the season's been really challenging. We've faced a bit of adversity this year. I think last year, I always recall a quote. I think it was to Alex Ferguson. He said something like, what do you attribute your success to, and what's the biggest factor? And he said, you need a bit of luck, you do, and I think I'm just really proud about having new challenges, different challenges this year that we've able to navigate and rely on the squad, and guys have pulled through, and I think that's probably accounted for some performances that probably haven't been up to the standard that we've expected, but I do believe we've turned a corner in the back end of the season, and we put together some performances I think we can be proud of. We go into this game, really excited for it. I mean, I think last week was a good one for us, and I think both teams, it's going to be a cracker, man. I think both teams are finding some form, so you're probably going to get a hell of a game on the weekend, eh?
Yeah, I definitely am expecting this one to be a barn burner. Rob, for yourself, obviously, you and the Free Jacks this year went 1-1, both very competitive games. Going to Quincy, somewhere you have won, not many teams can say that. What are you expecting from the Free Jacks, and what are you focusing on as a Chicago Hounds team coming into this playoff game?
Oh, look, I think they're just a really good rounded team, aren't they? I think some teams tend to be, all the way forwards or all the way backs and attacking or whatever. And I just think the Free Jacks, watching them and having played against them now or coached against them now twice, seem like a really well balanced team. Physical in defence, aggressive in defence, and then they've got some real silky players in the back line as well. So I think there's a lot of threats that we're going to have to try and contain to then come out on top. Hopefully we've got a few ourselves, don't get me wrong, but I think our defence will be tested. So that's probably where we're going to have to be on the money.
And then Scott, for you, looking at the Chicago team, obviously coming in with momentum again, you guys 1-1. What are you expecting from them, and what are you guys focusing on yourselves to make sure you're in the best place possible to get the result you want?
Yeah, I think you probably nailed it there. You probably don't get to a conference final not being a well-rounded side. I think Chicago proved they can score lots of tries. I'm pretty sure we finished the season on the same amount of tries. So I think both teams are really good with can put the ball away. I think Chicago's got a really good layered attack. They multiple options with the ball at the line. So again, we speak about really making good decisions on defence is going to be pretty key. Strong set piece. I think they've leaned really nicely on that. It's a great go-to for them. The maul's been functioning really well. So it's going to be a big challenge. And if you've got that steady base in a game, it's really something that you can hang your hat on. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like this one is going to be an absolute cracker. Thanks to both of you for coming on. We'll let you get back to preparations, and good luck on the weekend. We'll be watching, and can't wait for it, guys.
Awesome.
Cheers, Corbs.
And here we are, joined by the two head coaches, which are going to be playing off in the Western Conference final, obviously up at Seattle and Starfire Stadium. Alan Clarke from Seattle Seawolves and Augustin Cavalieri from the Dallas Jackals. Welcome both to the Rugby Rundown.
Thanks for having us. Hi, Augustin.
Thank you. Hi, Clarke. Hi, Corbs.
Yeah, hi, guys. So, Alan, I'll start with you first. Obviously, probably the fresher game in a lot of people's memories, definitely mine and yours, I'm sure. Seattle, what a season you guys have had. There was obviously maybe a little bit of bumps along the way with an injury times where maybe form may have dipped, but the way you guys have showed the team you are, I thought the performance you put in against San Diego Legion was very, very impressive, sort of a well-rounded performance and very clinical at times. How do you react to the result first and the season so far?
Yeah, obviously delighted with the result because of the strength of San Diego and the team that you are. And we prepared well, planned well, and a lot of elements of what we had worked on came together yesterday. And there were fine margins in the game. San Diego had a number of line breaks against us, but we scrambled really well and we took our opportunities at the right time and blew the scoreboard out a little bit. So it gives us that little bit of comfort at the back end. So pleased with the win. But again, one thing the squad have been excellent is that we just take it one game at a time. Don't get too far ahead of ourselves. Don't get too down on ourselves and keep trying to improve and enjoy playing our rugby.
Well, when we look at the game, like I thought in the first half, especially you boys, the way you kicked, the kick pressure, the battle, you allowed to put a lot of pressure on us in our own half. And then completely agree. I think the difference between the two sides, someone watching, was some of your guys' defense in that last third, probably, where you held out some really good stands against San Diego, but then also just how clinical, you already touched on, you were with your chances, which just meant even when San Diego, we did strike, you guys seemed to strike right back straight away, and we could just never close that gap on you.
I spoke before the game about consistency and our basic skills, and I suppose we play a brand of rugby where there are going to be turnovers, and there's a little bit of risk in it as well as that clinical kicking game. But yesterday, I felt the turnovers that, or certainly a percentage of our turnovers, were actually positive turnovers. They were from contestable kicks and our wingers going hard at the ball, as Augustin will have seen.
Augustin, for yourself, what a win on the weekend. Obviously, Seattle and San Diego, these are teams that a lot of people maybe are used to seeing in some of these playoffs. From Dallas Jackals, from where you've been to previous seasons, this year has been such an uptick in performance. And to go there as the 4th seed and actually beat Houston in Houston, like how impressive a result for you from getting to the Western Conference Final, but also from the big picture of where you've been as a team and where you are sitting right now.
Yeah, that is true. But we've been there with a lot of confidence after the whole season being competitive against everyone. We've been competitive in most of the team. I think the only game that we lose with a really big gap was against NOLA at home, but the rest of the game we've been always competitive to the end. And we've been there. We were right there with a good preparation. We've prepared very well this past 3 weeks. This game, and we came there with a lot of confidence and knowing that we had nothing to lose there now, giving all ourselves, and the guys, I think that they did a great job. They respect the game plan from minute 1 to the end, so I'm very proud of them and the job that they did and how they respect the game plan.
Yeah, I think it's been a great season for you guys. And I think the consistency you've shown, even in tight games, maybe not getting the results, the amount of tries you've been able to score as well as a team. And then I think the way you were able to handle Houston in that environment, the only team that's actually got a win there had been the Free Jacks. I thought the way you guys managed the kick battle well, that you were dangerous on counterattack at times, you kicked very well yourself. And then what I thought was, for me, is when you got momentum, when you got on the front foot, you're very, very clinical with what you guys do, either offload, keep it, front foot, or even in the red zone entries, either a strong maul game or then your pick and go and break teams down just seemed to be the right recipe to frustrate Houston.
Yeah, we knew that they had a very, very big side, very big forward pack, a lot of experience. We are a young team. We have a lot of energy. We have that running more than them. We will find opportunities, and I think that the guys find those opportunities and they took it.
And Alan, before we get into your guys' matchup, probably the one question for me is, from your Seattle team last year, obviously got to the Western Conference Final, didn't quite go all the way. What's the difference between last year's team and this year, have you felt, coaching and through the season?
Obviously, our collective understanding, both sides of the ball, is good. The depth in our squad is good. I feel we've assembled a group of men, and some of whom haven't been selected in the number of games that they maybe deserved to have been selected in due to the overseas numbers. That competition throughout the squads, and those boys been ready to step up. You know, we lost our whole back row and picked up more injuries at the weekend there. So, you know, it's just an attitude of, you know, next cab on the rank, if you like. So a phrase that I've coined from Leinster, you know, you've got to be good to go, and the boys have been preparing well, and just that mentality of trying to develop our game and that ambition. I thought our ambition came through yesterday, and that's the reason why I brought them to the club, because I wanted to get to finals rugby, you know, quarterfinals, semis, and who knows thereafter. But you want players with that ambition to win trophies and be as good as they can possibly be and get to the back end of the season.
And then, Augustin, for you, similar question. What is the difference from maybe Dallas Jackals of last year to this year and the team that you are coming into this Western Conference final now?
For me, it was I learned a lot on the past season, a lot about the league, a lot about the rugby. I came from Europe, and the rugby here is pretty different. On the strategic side, but pretty different on what you do normally in Europe, where the rugby is maybe most based on the defenses, on the set pieces, on the forwards side. And here there is a lot of turnovers, and you have to react a lot and have your players always ready for react, because you can play a transition from one second to the other, and the balls come back from one side to the other side, and that was a pretty important. From my side, was very important how I go from that, but also for my players. I think that last year we got a solid base of players that they stay for this season, and they know very well what we want as organization, and what I want as coach, and they help me. I have a very, very solid group of leaders that they are working very, very hard every day, every week.
Nope, makes a lot of sense. So then, all right, Alan, let's look at this weekend. Western Conference final, playing the Dallas Jackals, a team that you've played twice this year. Both games very competitive, especially the one up at your boys' place. So that probably will give them a little bit of confidence. What are you expecting from Dallas this weekend, and just thoughts on the game in general?
Obviously, Dallas I think they play a really good brand of rugby. They can take you on up front, and they've got that continuity of play within their backs as well. So, we'll focus on how we can counter their strengths, but primarily we'll focus on ourselves and the elements of the game that we'll try and impose upon the opposition. And it's going to be a wonderful occasion. It's going to be a close encounter. It's finals rugby. Anything can happen.
Augustin, for you, how are you looking at this game against Seattle? Obviously, a team you've played twice, very competitive, especially when you were up there. You and your team must take some confidence from that. What do you think of this Seattle side and the matchup this weekend?
Trust me, it's for me, one of the toughest games that you can have in the league. Going to Seattle and playing against, they have a very good team. And they have a lot. They can punish you with the maul. They can punish you on the scrums. They can punish you with the backs. They are strong everywhere. So we have to be prepared to not have maybe those blackouts that sometimes we have as a team, that where the other teams score maybe 1, 2, 3 times in a row. So being prepared to react to our mistakes. Okay. It will be pretty important how we will be connected indeed, because they have very skillful players that they can take every opportunity. So I think that how we will be connected on D, that will be the key for our game. Not conceding opportunities to those players, mostly the 3 on the back that they have. They will take every opportunity. They are great.
Oh, it's going to be a great game, guys. And wishing you both the luck. Very excited for it. Thanks so much for making time to be on here. And good luck this weekend. We all look forward to watching you two duke it out in the West.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Corbs. Bye, Clarke.
Great work, Corbs. I massively appreciate it. Otherwise, it would have been a very early morning for me. It's going to be a big showcase this weekend.
I think it's just going to be a cracker. I think, you've got both maybe home teams would be on paper slightly favoured. by, the neutrals looking at this game. But then both of the away teams coming in have this sort of slight underdog status where you know that they're capable of winning. You could see the Jackals pulling it off. You could see Chicago pulling it off. For me, I think none of the coaches were willing to give too much away. You could see cards are reasonably close to their chest, but they were sort of giving their opponents props, which I thought was quite insightful. But for me, I just think it just sets up that like both of these teams know how big a game this is, and there's both a little bit of nerves that everyone doesn't feel like as assured as you maybe would want that you're going to win coming into these games, because it could go either way.
Man, it's perfectly onto our last little segment, which of course is the predictions. I'm intrigued to hear what you've got going as we head into these conference finals. It's prediction time. It's the Crystal Ball Challenge. Well, Corbs, we did talk about it earlier from our previous Crystal Ball Challenge, which was those conference semifinals. You did nail that Dallas at Houston one. I've got to credit you with that, but then I absolutely clean swept it. Obviously, personally, that last result at the end was a difficult one. To be happy that I got the prediction right, but sad to see the Legion go out. But for this, look, now we have to show we know what we're on about. And it's two big games. I'm going to start with the East, buddy. I'm going to start with Chicago Hounds going to Snapdragon. I just think they've got this. I love the way that they are going at the line. The options they got, their set piece just looks on point, and everything for the fact that Luke Carty's at 10. I am going to say the Hounds, buddy, and I'm going to say the Hounds by 5.
This game is so hard to call. Like, I feel like going for the Hounds if you're going to go on momentum, but something about the Free Jacks maybe scraping through that one. Now another game at home. I'll go Free Jacks by 2, but I think that game could go either way. So pick them for me.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. It's very much a toss of the coin on both these games. And then, of course, maybe it is a toss of the coin as well when we go to the West. Can the Jackals do it? Can they do it? I mean, they've got confidence, my word, listening to Kuka go there, talk about his Jackal side. But, Corbs, I can't see the Seawolves losing at home. We talked off air just how difficult that place is to go, Starfire, for various reasons. But I see the Seattle Seawolves going to that final, and I see them doing it potentially close, but have the Dallas Jackals played their final game against Houston? They were so good. So I'm going to go with Seawolves. I'm going to go with the Seawolves by 5 as well.
This is a tough call. I think Seawolves should definitely be favourites. But do I just roll the dice on Dallas one more time? Like the underdog story? Like, it's pretty tempting, to go from where they've been to where they are now. Can they go one further? I do feel like Seattle might be a step too far. I am going to go Dallas by 2. Dallas by 2.
There we go. Corbs has backed his boys from Texas. Love that, buddy. We will have one final game to predict. Of course, the championship game, but there you go. There's our predictions and our Crystal Ball Challenge of those conference finals. Well done, Corbs. I appreciate you getting up this morning, talking to myself. I am looking forward to getting back to the US, getting involved in that broadcasting for those conference finals. Boy, they are going to be tight games on that Saturday and Sunday. Do not miss them. They, of course, are on Fox Sports here in the US on FS1. But then if you're an international viewer, go to the Rugby Network. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you check out this episode and plenty more content across Major League Rugby YouTube. And if you're listening to us on podcast, do leave us a review, give us a rating. We appreciate that. Corbs, I will see you back in action next week. And we've got a plan. We're going to hopefully be a certain venue change for our recording for the big one next week, buddy. I'm looking forward for that. I hope you have a restful
Should be a good
week.
one, mate. Yeah, I'll take it easy. Don't you worry.
Take it easy. Go and have a beer or two. Oh, there it is. He was going to say at some point, from us all here, thank you to everyone involved. Particularly, I've got to shout out, he's excellent, our editor, Adam. We'll see you next week. Corbs, I'll see you very soon.
See you, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, all the support. And just for anyone watching from my San Diego Legion, nothing but love, guys. Big love. It's been an amazing season, and I'm proud of every last one of you. Cheers, everyone.